You know that feeling? You just got off a call, or maybe you finally left lunch with a friend, and you feel completely emptied out. More tired than when you started. It's not just in your head. That's your energy, your time, the most valuable things you have, and they just got spent on the wrong person. I've been there. We all have. And that's why we're talking about this today. We're going through the 10 types of people who simply aren't worth that precious investment. And I really want you to stay until the end, because the number one spot is the one we most often make excuses for, and the one that costs us the most. Now, before we get into it, I need to say this. This isn't about pointing fingers or declaring people bad. We all have our off days. This is about patterns. It's about recognizing the consistent behaviors that leave us feeling drained instead of filled up, so we can make smarter choices about who gets a front row seat in our lives. Number 10. The chronic victim/energy vampire. Let's start with a classic, and one you've probably encountered, the chronic victim. We all have that one friend or colleague. The one where every conversation, without fail, becomes a list of everything that's gone wrong in their world. Their boss is out to get them, their partner is never thoughtful enough, the universe itself seems to be conspiring against them. And while we all need to vent sometimes, the key difference here is that for this person, the problem is always external. Nothing is ever a consequence of their own choices or actions. They are the perpetual main character in a tragedy they didn't write. What makes this so uniquely draining is that it turns your natural empathy against you. You step into the conversation wanting to be a good friend, to listen and offer support. But you quickly realize you're not just listening, you're being pulled into a negative vortex. They aren't looking for solutions. In fact, they'll shoot down every gentle suggestion you offer. What they're really looking for is an audience to validate their suffering. They use your caring nature as fuel to keep their own engine of negativity running, and when the conversation finally ends, you're the one who feels completely running on empty. You've given your energy and gotten only more heaviness in return. So, how do you handle this without feeling like a terrible person? The answer lies in a concept called compassionate detachment. It means you can care about someone without taking ownership of their problems. Start by setting a gentle but firm boundary. You can say something like, "It sounds like you're really going through a lot. I'm here to listen, but I have to be honest, I don't have the energy to dive into all the details today." The key is to offer support once, but refuse to be their unpaid therapist. If they start cycling through the same complaints, you can gently change the subject. It feels awkward at first, but you have to remember, you are not responsible for fixing their life. Protecting your peace allows you to be a better friend to the people who engage in a healthy, two-way relationship. Number 9. The passive-aggressive communicator. Next up is a type that creates a special kind of confusion, the passive-aggressive communicator. This is the person who can never just say what's wrong. Instead of a direct conversation, you get a sigh, an eye roll, or the classic backhanded compliment. "Wow, you actually managed to be on time today." Maybe they disappear into the silent treatment for days, leaving you wondering what you did, or they post vague, dramatic statements on social media that are clearly aimed at someone, but they'll never say who. It's communication through a foghorn of indirect hints, and it's utterly exhausting. The reason this is so draining isn't just the frustration, it's the erosion of trust. You find yourself in a constant state of second-guessing. You're playing detective in your own relationships, analyzing their tone, their texts, their body language, trying to decipher what they really mean. It creates this walking on eggshells feeling because the rules of engagement are never clear. You can't address a problem that hasn't been stated, and you can't trust someone who won't communicate with you honestly. It makes every interaction feel unstable and emotionally unsafe. Handling this requires you to break the cycle of indirectness, and the best way to do that is with calm, direct clarity. You have to bring the issue into the light. The next time you sense that tension, the sarcastic remark, the cold shoulder, try this. Approach them privately and say, "Hey, I might be reading this wrong, but I'm getting the sense that something's bothering you. I'd really prefer if we could talk about it openly." This does two things. First, it calls out the behavior without being aggressive. Second, it hands the responsibility back to them to use their words. If they deny it or continue the behavior, you've done your part. You can't force someone to communicate maturely, but you can refuse to play the guessing game. By being direct, you protect your own mental energy and set a standard for how you expect to be treated. Number 8. The taker, the non-reciprocator. Now let's talk about a type that leaves you feeling used, the taker. You know this person. Your phone lights up and it's them, and you already know what's coming. They need a favor, they need to vent about their disastrous day, they need your professional advice, they need you to look over this document. And you show up, because that's what friends do. But then, a week later, when you're the one having a rough time and could really use a listening ear, they're mysteriously unavailable. Or when you finally muster the courage to ask for a small favor in return, there's always an excuse. The relationship feels like a one-way street, and you're the only one on it. This is so draining because it fundamentally violates the spirit of a relationship, which is mutual exchange. It's not about keeping a strict scorecard, but about a general balance of energy and care. With a taker, you start to feel less like a friend and more like a resource. You begin to question your own worth, wondering, if I stopped providing these things, would they even stick around? That feeling of being used, of your generosity being exploited, breeds resentment and can make you cynical about opening up to other people. It devalues your time and your kindness, making you feel like your only value is what you can provide. Protecting yourself here is about relearning a very simple word, no. It doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational. It can be graceful and firm. I'd love to help, but my plate is completely full right now. Or, I'm not the best person for that, but I hope you find a solution. The goal is to stop the automatic yes that they've come to expect. The most important step, however, is to simply pay attention. Stop and honestly assess the flow of the relationship. Is there a mutual effort? Do they ever check in on you just because? Do they celebrate your wins? If the answer is consistently no, then you have your answer. Stop pouring your energy into a cup that never fills back up. Number 7. The dream killer and critic. This next type is especially dangerous because they often come disguised as a realist. This is the dream killer. You're buzzing with excitement about a new idea. Maybe you want to start a business, go back to school, or even just try a new hobby. You share it with them, hoping for a spark of encouragement, and instead you get a laundry list of everything that could possibly go wrong. Are you sure that's a good idea? That sounds really risky. Do you really have time for that? They criticize your choices under the guise of practicality, but what they're really doing is projecting their own fears and insecurities onto your ambition. The damage this does is deep and insidious. It doesn't just drain your energy in the moment, it slowly erodes your confidence over time. That initial spark of excitement gets dampened by their cold water. You start to second-guess yourself before you even begin. Their voice gets in your head, and you begin to adopt their limiting beliefs as your own. They stifle your potential before it even has a chance to grow, leaving you playing it safe and small, right where they're most comfortable. The key to handling a dream killer is a fundamental shift in your own behavior. Stop seeking their validation. Understand that their criticism is not about you or the merit of your dream, it's a reflection of their own mindset. The most powerful thing you can do is to protect your precious ideas. Be very selective about who you share your dreams and ambitions with in their early, vulnerable stages. Share them with your cheerleaders, with the people who will say, "That's amazing. Tell me more." Create a circle of support that fuels your fire, and relegate the dream killer to conversations about the weather and what's on TV. Your dreams are too important to be left in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to hold them. Number 6. The unreliable flake. And then there's the unreliable flake. This is the person who treats your time as if it's completely disposable. You make plans a week in advance. You clear your schedule, you get ready, and then text. So sorry, something just came up. Or worse, radio silence until an hour after you were supposed to meet. Or maybe they're not a last-minute canceller, but they're perpetually 30 minutes late to everything, acting like their time is inherently more valuable than yours. Their commitment seems to be written in pencil, while yours is written in ink. This behavior is draining because it's a profound form of disrespect. It sends a very clear, albeit unspoken, message. You and your time are not a priority to me. It makes you feel unimportant and insignificant. Beyond the immediate annoyance of changed plans, it creates an underlying anxiety. You can never truly relax or look forward to something because you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the cancellation text to come through. You stop making plans with them altogether because the emotional labor of dealing with their unreliability is more work than the plans themselves. The strategy here is to stop setting yourself up for disappointment. Stop making firm, important plans with this person. If they suggest a fancy dinner reservation for Saturday night, you might say, "I'm not sure about my schedule that far out, but why don't we try for a casual coffee sometime during the week instead?" Keep all interactions low stakes and flexible. If they're late, don't wait around. Tell them, "I can only wait for 15 minutes, but then I'll have to head out." By doing this, you are not being punitive. You are simply teaching them how to treat you by matching their level of investment. You are protecting your own schedule and your own feelings, and refusing to let their flakiness dictate your time. Number 5. The gossip. Let's talk about the gossip. This is the person whose primary currency isn't kindness or connection, it's information. They thrive on knowing everyone's business and feel powerful by sharing it. The conversation often starts with, "Oh my gosh, don't tell anyone I told you this, but..." And immediately you're pulled into the drama of someone else's life. It feels juicy and engaging in the moment, a shared secret that creates a false sense of intimacy. But then a cold realization hits you. If they're so freely telling you everyone else's secrets, what's stopping them from sharing yours? You realize you're not a trusted confidant, you're just today's audience. This is deeply draining because it breeds an environment of pure mistrust. You can never truly let your guard down or be vulnerable with this person. Every time you share something personal, a little voice in the back of your head wonders if it will become tomorrow's topic of conversation. It makes you feel insecure and anxious, not just about them, but about the entire social circle. You start to question who you can really talk to, eroding your sense of safety in your own relationships. Handling the gossip requires a conscious refusal to play the game. The most effective tool is a simple subject change. When they start to dive into someone else's business, you can politely interject with, "Oh, I'd rather not talk about someone who isn't here," or, "That sounds like their private matter, let's talk about something else." Even a simple, followed by immediately asking them a personal question about their own life can derail the gossip train. Most importantly, do not contribute your own information. Understand that any vulnerability you offer will likely be used as fuel. Protecting your peace means protecting your private stories. Number 4. The competitor, the one-upper. Next is the competitor, also known as the infamous one-upper. You cannot have a win around this person. You share your excitement about a promotion, and they immediately talk about their bigger raise or more important title. You're struggling with a cold, and they've suddenly got a mysterious illness that's far worse. It's as if your experiences are merely a challenge for them to surpass. Your joy becomes a platform for their boast, and your pain becomes a stage for their suffering. This behavior is draining because it completely invalidates your reality. It turns every single interaction into a subtle, unspoken competition that you never agreed to join. Instead of feeling seen and heard, you feel minimized and dismissed. Your accomplishments feel diminished, and your struggles feel trivialized. You walk away from conversations with them feeling strangely deflated, as if your own life isn't quite good or bad enough to be valid. It leaves you feeling lonely even when you're standing right next to them. The way out of this dynamic is to refuse to compete. Don't try to counter their story with the better one of your own. Instead, give a simple, unenthusiastic acknowledgement of their one-up and then swiftly move the conversation back to neutral territory. A flat, "Oh, good for you," or "Sorry to hear that," followed by a subject change is your best defense. You are essentially giving their competitive remark nowhere to go. By not engaging, you protect your own energy and deny them the victory they're seeking. Your life is not a competition, and you don't need their validation to make your experiences real. Number 3. The boundary pusher. This one is particularly tough. The boundary pusher. This is the person who hears your clear, respectful no and treats it as a suggestion or a challenge. They are the masters of the guilt trip, the experts at testing your limits. You say you can't lend them money, and they sigh about how nobody ever helps them. You ask them not to drop by unannounced, and they show up anyway because they were in the neighborhood. They operate on the assumption that their wants are more important than your needs. This is profoundly draining because it is a direct violation of your autonomy and self-respect. Every time they cross a line and you don't enforce it, you silently teach them that your boundaries are negotiable and teach yourself that your needs don't matter. It creates a constant, low-grade feeling of resentment and powerlessness. You start to feel like you're not in control of your own life, space, or energy because someone else feels entitled to them. Handling a boundary pusher requires firmness and, most importantly, consistency. You must state your boundary clearly and calmly, without over-explaining or apologizing. "I can't lend you money, but I wish you the best in finding a solution." Then, you must enforce a consequence if they continue to push. "I've asked you not to drop by unannounced. Since you have, I'm not going to be able to let you in today. Please call next time." It feels harsh, but it is necessary. You are not being mean. You are simply teaching people how to treat you with respect by upholding the standards you set for yourself. Number 2. The emotional roller coaster. Perhaps one of the most exhausting types is the emotional roller coaster. This person's mood is wildly unpredictable. They can be euphoric one moment and plunged into despair the next, often over seemingly minor things. You never know which version of them you're going to get, so you find yourself constantly editing your behavior, carefully choosing your words, and walking on eggshells to avoid accidentally triggering an outburst or a depressive spiral. Their emotional world is a storm, and you're constantly being pulled into the center of it. The drain here is constant and heavy. You become hypervigilant. Managing their emotions becomes a full-time job you never applied for. Their instability becomes your problem to solve. You feel responsible for cheering them up, for calming them down, for fixing the unfixable. This is an impossible task that leaves you feeling anxious, stressed, and ultimately hopeless. You sacrifice your own emotional stability on the altar of theirs, and you end up just as drained and chaotic as they are. It is critical to remember, you are not their therapist. Your job is to be a friend, not a crisis manager. The kindest thing you can do for both of them and yourself is to gently encourage them to seek professional help. "It sounds like you're really struggling and I care about you. Have you considered talking to someone who has the tools to help with this?" Meanwhile, you must protect your own mental space. This means limiting your exposure when their energy is too volatile and stopping yourself from trying to fix their feelings. You can offer a listening ear without taking ownership of their emotional state. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first. Number 1. The person who shows you who they are, and you don't believe them. And now, the number 1 type of person you shouldn't waste your time on. This isn't about a specific behavior, it's about a pattern you participate in. This is the person whose actions consistently don't match their words. They promise change but never deliver. They apologize profusely only to repeat the same hurtful behavior. You see the red flags, the unreliability, the disrespect, the broken promises, but you explain them away. You tell yourself they have so much potential. You believe they're good excuses. You focus on the person you hope they can be, instead of the person they repeatedly show you they are. This is the absolute worst because the primary person wasting your time is you. You are investing in a fantasy, a version of someone that exists only in your hopes, not in reality. You are choosing the comforting story over the uncomfortable truth. This hope is what keeps you stuck in a cycle of disappointment, because every time they fail to live up to the fantasy, it chips away at your trust, your confidence, and your sense of reality. You are betraying your own instincts by ignoring what you see and know to be true. The solution is the ultimate act of self-respect. Believe them the first time. Stop listening to their poetic apologies and start watching their pattern of actions. A person's character is not defined by their promises, but by their habits. When someone shows you a consistent pattern of behavior, that is who they are. Trust that. Let go of the potential and deal with the reality. It is painful, but it is freeing. It means you stop renting out space in your mind for a person who doesn't exist. Choosing to see the truth, however hard it is how you reclaim your time, your energy, and your life. You deserve to be with people who are already who they say they are. So, we've walked through a pretty challenging list. And if you saw yourself in some of these patterns or recognize people in your life, it can feel a bit heavy. So I want to leave you with this, because this is the most important part. This entire conversation boils down to one simple, vital truth. Protecting your time and energy isn't a selfish act. It's an essential one. It is the foundation of your well-being. Think of your energy like a finite resource, like a cup of water. You can't pour from an empty cup. By consciously choosing who you pour into, you ensure that you have enough left to show up fully, authentically, and lovingly for the people in your life who truly deserve it, including yourself. I also want to offer a slight reframe. This journey isn't just about cutting people out. That language can feel harsh and final. Instead, think of it as curating your inner circle. It's about being the intentional architect of your own social world. It's asking yourself, who are the people who leave me feeling energized, supported, and uplifted? Who celebrates my wins without competing? Who listens without draining? Who respects a no without a guilt trip? Those are your people. That is your inner circle. Make a conscious choice to invest the bulk of your precious time and vulnerability there. It's not about building walls. It's about nurturing the gardens that actually grow. Finally, remember this. You are constantly teaching people how to treat you by what you allow, what you accept, and what you endure. Every time you enforce a boundary, you are giving a lesson in respect. Every time you choose not to engage in a one-sided dynamic, you are affirming your own worth. Choosing yourself, your peace, your sanity, your growth, is never a waste. It is, in fact, the greatest investment you will ever make. You deserve relationships that are reciprocal, respectful, and real. Never settle for anything less. Now, I'd love to hear from you. This is a conversation, not just a monologue. Which one of these types resonated with you the most? Was it the energy vampire or maybe the one-upper? Or is there someone in your life who is a master of showing you who they are, and you're finally learning to believe them? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I make a point to read every single comment, and it's so powerful to see how we can all learn from each other's stories. If this video helped you gain a little clarity or made you feel less alone in navigating these tricky relationships, then it would mean the world to me if you'd give it a thumbs up. That little like button really helps this message reach more people who might need to hear it. And if you're new here and want to continue this journey of setting boundaries and building a life you love, please consider hitting that subscribe button. This channel is all about practical tips for leveling up your mental and emotional well-being. Make sure you tap that bell icon right next to the subscribe button too. That way, YouTube will actually let you know when I post a new video, and you won't miss a thing. Speaking of which, now that we know how to spot these draining patterns, what do we do next? Well, speaking of those toxic dynamics, in next week's video we're diving into something so many of you have asked for: the subtle language of manipulation, 10 phrases toxic people use. We'll break down the common things people say to guilt trip and control others, and exactly how to respond. You truly won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and remember, your peace is precious. Protect it. I'll see you in the next one.